As a kid, we lived on kind of a busy street. They used to get a big kick out of the fact that I could sit outside and name all the cars that went by when I was like 5 or 6 years old. And I guess I was just kind of born with it.
I think the automobile in general was probably one of the most important icons of the 20th century, you know. It's what made the common man mobile. It's what made all of the United States mobile.
I bought my first collector car in 1972, and a couple buddies of mine one night came up and started disassembling the whole thing and leaving notes like, take this to the chrome shop and go meet this guy for upholstery. And I guess that's kind of how it started.
These are objects that have historical meanings, as the automobiles that we collect. And with that come everything like ephemera, brochures, catalogs, and also the objects and badges and models and stuff that represent the cars that we collect.
It's a lifelong story, and I don't see it stopping as long as I'm alive.
So why are you a car collector? What does it mean to you?
I can't help myself. There's no 12-step program to cure us. And it's not always definable. I mean, I've had some great cars, I've had some very important cars, but it's sometimes the funniest little things that'll get you all excited. It could be some old Ford Model T, all original, or a vintage motorcycle that you knew a friend had in high school. It's not always about, owning or having to own yourself. It's that experience of the smells, the sound. It's all part of it. And it's a fulfillment. It's unstoppable and it's addictive. And the more you know, the more you want to know. It's just great. It's very rewarding.
You've got a Packard that had a famous owner. I mean, what does that mean in the context of owning a car like that?
Particularly cars from the 30s, it's sometimes hard to trace them back to their originality. But in this particular car, this case, this car was owned by Admiral Byrd, who was a famous aviator and polar explorer. I feel kind of like a custodian of history with this car. It's important that I faithfully represent that car for the future.
As time's gone on, we have met many, many, many people, and I've become more knowledgeable over the years, and I think that's true, whether you're into art, stamps, coins, whatever. The fact that you gain knowledge, there are people that search you out, and particularly as you get older, I've got something that I'm so heavily involved in that having a job, I don't know when I do it. So it's grown into, it's a lifelong story, and I don't see it stopping as long as I'm alive.
This is the dual cowl Phaeton, and the passengers actually entered it by lowering the windshield here, and lifting up the cowl area, and then it's pretty easy to enter, an ample area to enter in from there. I love the fact that you can look at this car and see that parts of its original bones and integrity are still there. Cars are only original once, and in this case, we actually had to paint it because it had been painted in the 50s and done poorly, and the paint was literally falling off the car. The color of a car really is important to me, and I do a lot of research on that, and I've got books on the colors of the era. And in this case, you would look at the individual cars, if it was whatever car it was, Packard or in this Lincoln here, and you could see the 1932, 33 models and what the colors were by name, and then they were referenced in the back of this book
for years, Pebble Beach was all about the most beautiful cars, often the best restored cars. But now one of the most popular classes is preservation. And you have quite a bit to do with that, would you?
Yeah, I'm a retired antique dealer, so it speaks to my heart. A car is only original once, and we've gone with automobiles past the point of saying just a bunch of good old boys with some nice shiny cars. It's now about, it's probably the most important, or in many ways one of the most important icons of the 20th century as a man-made object, and it's not just a tool or a piece of machinery, it's art. And we now have a responsibility to preserve that art. And as Miles Collier, who's been very much a leader in this connoisseurship of the automobile, says these automobiles become documents of time, industrial documents of time. And I think we have a responsibility. And the funny thing is, if you have a restored car next to an unrestored car and they're exactly the same car, people will spend 10 times as much time at the unrestored car as the shiny new car. It just has a little more depth to it. It smacks of its own history. And I think it's changing. You know, Al won a class 2 years ago with last year with an Hispano Suiza that almost totally original. It's fabulous, and it had so much energy. No, it's great.
I don't think you grew up with an Hispano Suiza, but you like those cars. Why?
That's a learning experience.
Yeah.
I'm not sure now that I needed to learn this, but anyway, it was one of the great European automobiles. And I got into European automobiles of the 30s and 20s, not deliberately, it just, things flowed that way, and you become more knowledgeable, so you want more, and the Hispano Suiza was a fortunate find, a very fortunate find, and I've learned a great deal about it. A lot of it's been painful, but we've learned a lot. And I appreciate those cars for what they are, what the designs were.
After World War II, the soldiers came back and they brought with them sports cars, and they hopped up cars, and there was a industry, particularly in Southern California, where there was speed equipment that was developed for these cars for drag racing and street racing. And this has a rare set of Elco twin plugs. There's 2 plugs per cylinder on this this car. One of the things that I guess is in my DNA is I probably never found a car that I didn't like, and so we have on display cars from. We have a hot rod on display from a traditional 50s hot rod, a 47 Ford Woody wagon that will be here, and. We will also have the 32 Packard that was the Admiral Byrd car, and I think we'll have a Porsche 356 Cabriolet that will be here as well.
You know, those are totally different cars.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of me. I mean, I like all eras. I'm not stuck on classics alone or sports cars alone, and I like to go into the garage, and I guess my favorite car is the one I'm going to be driving that day when I've gone a good day.
I think when car collecting, the most important thing is it's something that you like and want to own and appreciate. And then you need to think about, what do I want to do with it? Is it a car I want to bring to shows, or is it a car I want to rally with, or a car that I just want to use as a daily driver? I mean, all those things are possible. But it's a matter of focusing on what you're doing and what you're collecting and why. But once I've decided what I would like to have, then my premier criteria would be the fact that it's genuine and that most of it's original. That's the part that speaks most to me, yeah.
You know, most people in their lifetime, maybe they own 10, 15 cars, and most of those are regular transportation. But should we just touch for a moment on the number of collector cars that you've owned?
A collection isn't just the cars in my garage. A collection is the cars that have gone through my life. And then, you know, that's a lot of cars.
Do you remember what you thought when someone perhaps told you that this was going to be America's Car Museum in Tacoma, Washington? Al, maybe you could answer that.
Yeah, we thought it was a bridge too far. And I think we're all amazed at what has been done here, what's been created, and particularly through the years that the work had to go on, meaning the economic issues nationally or internationally. And we're amazed and so pleased that it's come about. But in the beginning, I don't know anybody that thought they had a prayer.
David Madeira.
Yes, I can't say enough. Can't say enough about David because he did a job that none of us thought could be done.
We want to honor here people who have been a vibrant part of the classic and broader collector car community, enthusiast community, with wonderful collections, committed to driving the automobile. You all have been talking about driving cars and feeling cars and experiencing cars. So we want to honor people who've really engaged with the cars more than a stationary icon of American culture. And in this particular case, recognizing that we have in our midst and as part of our advisory team, three men who've really contributed. You know, between you, there's probably, well, with Al, there's 100 years of automotive history.
Alone.
Alone, yeah.
Absolutely.
So between the three of you, there's 150 years. You know, these are men who've contributed at all levels to the hobby. Pebble Beach, where Glen was chairman, you all have been judges and part of the selection committee. You know, one of the greatest car concours in the world. Really recognizing excellence. And then the driving, and Al, with all your years of the caravans, you know, and is just another example. And then finally, the vision for this was, these gentlemen helped me put the vision for this together, give us a world stage. When I went to Glen, he said, sure, you're welcome at Pebble Beach, let me get you there. Well, the LeMays in this collection were so far from involvement with Pebble Beach, but you gave us entree to that community, which has been real important. And Al with the Motoring Classic, and we've been part of that now for 10 years.
Every year.
You know, and Peter with Club Auto up here and all of these other things. So couldn't have a better exhibition than telling the story of three guys, but you guys, you know, you're pals and you're men of the highest integrity and knowledge, and it's just our real honor to have you part of America's Car Museum and as our friends. So that's why we wanted to honor you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
It's been fun. The three of us really have. We've had
The three amigos.
the three amigos.
Yeah.
We've had experiences all around the world, most of which we can't talk about on camera, but